Welcome everybody to GoLocal Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. It is a busy morning. If you haven't seen the lineup, take a look. But we travel down to Washington, D.C. We've got Darrell West at Brookings. He's got a new book, Lies That Kill, co-authored with Elaine Kamarck. And Darrell's a longtime friend, used to be a leading professor over at Brown University. Darrell, thanks so much for joining us.
Josh, it's great to be with you again.
Okay, Darrell, let's jump into it. We are roughly 70 days before presidential election. You've got a new book out talking about sort of the dangers of fake news, false posts on social media. Walk us through what you and Elaine found in your analysis, both in the case studies and the overall trends.
So the book is about disinformation, and in this election campaign, we already are seeing a bunch of fake pictures, fake videos. I mean, I've seen images of Kamala Harris in a swimming suit hugging convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, which of course never took place.
Right.
Democrats have spread rumors that J.D. Vance had sex with his couch early in his life, which did not happen. So you just look all over the place. There's blatant lies that are taking place, blatant disinformation. I think everybody's expecting this to be a close race. My personal fear is that the last 2, 3, or 4% that will decide this election may end up making up their minds based on disinformation.
So in olden days, as you know, of campaigns, there was sort of a cycle, and the hard negatives would come out really that last 10 days. The media sort of had a rule that you didn't pick up those stories in the last week. All those rules are now gone. How does the average person, even the informed person, protect themselves against this sort of flood of information that's coming at them, both on news sources, through commercials, and obviously through social media?
I mean, it's not easy because the fake stuff actually looks incredibly real. I mean, I've seen pictures and even videos that look completely authentic, but they're made by AI and completely manufactured and oftentimes completely inaccurate. So it's a big challenge for consumers. I mean, in our book, Lies That Kill, we tell people they just need to exercise common sense, but we also need digital literacy training programs. The whole internet has kind of spawned both really good and really bad aspects of human existence. People need to learn how to evaluate information. They need to learn what's coming from a partisan site versus a nonpartisan site. What information is coming from abroad? You know, this election, we've already seen evidence of Iran, Russia, China, and other countries trying to influence our election, often doing so in ways that divide Americans from one another or spread false interpretations about what is going on. In the United Kingdom, you know, they had riots because people falsely believed that a crime that had been committed in one city had been committed by an immigrant. So there's just warning signs all over the place. So we need to take this problem seriously.
And it's growing, right? The social media companies regularly go before Congress and say they're taking steps. But in reality, are they taking enough steps? And is government regulation strong enough or even interested in controlling these factors?
The social media platforms are going backwards. I mean, actually in 2020, they made a serious effort at content moderation. They tried to judge what were like ridiculously blatant lies, and they would take that stuff down. Many of them have fired their human safety staff, so the people who would kind of look at the content and make decisions on truth versus accuracy are gone, so they're not even in a position to police what is happening. Ever since Elon Musk bought Twitter/X, that platform has gone downhill. There's so much disinformation that's flowing all around that site, including stuff that Elon Musk himself disseminates and retweets, even though it's factually inaccurate. YouTube has a lot of false videos on its site. So the platform has basically decided it was too controversial in a polarized America to engage in content moderation. So we really have a wild west of the internet where virtually anything goes, but people really need to be aware of what they're seeing and what they're believing.
We're on the precipice of the explosion of AI. We use ChatGPT and and some of the other tools for a range of different elements, and we identify that when we do. We've played with images in DALL-E, which is the ChatGPT image maker. There's also supposed to be a video platform, which is yet to launch, called Sora. These things are going to further expand, potentially, if used incorrectly, false information.
Yes, that is a very real risk. The nice thing about some of the mainstream tools that are out there is they actually are building in some safeguards. So, for example, OpenAI does not allow you to manipulate images of either Trump or Harris, just because they're obvious public figures, and the potential for misleading information is just so high. But there are many other platforms that don't have any of those restrictions. So you can basically put Kamala Harris's head on the body of a naked woman, which is taking place. I've seen images of Trump being dragged off by the police, which that never happened. So the tools are getting more powerful. The problem is we have democratized the technology in the sense that it used to be, in order to use powerful AI tools, you needed some degree of a technical background. That's no longer the case. Like, all these tools are now template driven or prompt driven. It just asks you, what do you want to do? And then it does it. So you don't need a computer science degree in order to use any of these tools.
Great book, great timing. Look forward to going through it. It's your second book on this issue, but I want to actually go back to an earlier book called The Future of Work, which you published in 2019. We had you on talking about, it was really about how artificial intelligence would take people out of the workforce. Then COVID hit, and we saw that process maybe even increase during that period of time as people leveraged technology, whether it was as simple as using Skype for business, or for, in cases like us, reinventing how we produce our videos as well. Talk a little bit about what you learned in The Future of Work and where we are right now since that book was published in 2019.
Well, the world has changed dramatically, and as you know, COVID basically forced everybody to become a technology innovator. So people are using technology in new and creative ways in virtually every sector. And it is having an impact on the workforce. I mean, there are jobs that have been lost and will be lost due to technology innovation. There are also going to be a bunch of new jobs that are being created. Like, the whole video sector has really taken off. So people with video skills, either video production or video editing, those jobs are going to be abundant. There's a whole field of data analytics. Like, one of the virtues of an online world is we can actually develop metrics on who's reading what story, how long they're reading it. There may be pop-up surveys that gauge a reaction to the story. So the whole data field has kind of opened up in ways that if people have data skills and know how to interpret all that online data that is coming on board, they're going to end up doing very well. I think the only thing we have to worry about is some of the people who are losing jobs are not going to be qualified for the new jobs that are being created. There's a little bit of a mismatch there. So we are going to have to get more serious about workforce development, making sure high schools, colleges, and community colleges train people for the new jobs that are being created and not the jobs of 5 and 10 years ago. So there are going to be opportunities with this transition, but we need to navigate some of the problems that already are becoming apparent.
Darrell, if you look at the range of books that you've written over your career, everything from billionaires, Patrick Kennedy biography, and AI and social media and the explosion of sort of the digital age into this new era. What do you think about where we are and where we're going? Are we at a danger point, or this thing is pretty resilient? I think back to being a child and seeing the 72 period, 73 period, in which violence on campuses, civil rights, women's rights, just post-assassination of major leaders, and then the removal of a president from office, all sort of happened in a short period of time. Are you optimistic or worrisome about where we are as a country?
I mean, we're living during a time of large scale transformations on a lot of different fronts. I mean, the technology angle, clearly that's transforming many different areas. Geopolitics is a lot more complicated. Like in the 1970s, the world still was kind of ruled by the United States or the Soviet Union. It was a kind of a bipolar world. Now we've shifted to a multipolar world where China is rising. There are countries in Africa and South America and Asia that are exercising a lot of influence in their respective regions. So the ability of the United States to kind of dictate or control what is happening has been sharply diminished. Income inequality is much bigger now than it was 30 or 40 years ago. So kind of the loss of economic opportunity that a lot of people want, they're now worried what's going to happen to their children, what's going to happen to their grandchildren. And so I think a lot of the political stuff that we're seeing today is a reflection of these mega changes that are taking place, which are just creating a lot of anxiety on the part of everybody. It's like everybody's worried about the country with our polarization. Everybody's worried about the world, Russian aggression, Chinese becoming more assertive internationally. So it is a risky time period. I think the risks are much higher now than what we would imagine even 5 or 10 years ago.
As a leading political futurist, pundit, et cetera, do you have a prediction on the presidential election?
If the election were held today, Kamala Harris is actually in very good shape. I mean, I have never seen such a dramatic turn of a presidential election, this close to the election, in such a short period of time. I mean, Biden was going down the tubes. So, like, if you'd asked me to predict, 2 months ago, I would have said Trump was going to beat Biden. But Biden's exit from the race and Kamala Harris's emergence as the Democratic nominee has completely transformed it. She's come up in the polls. She's raised over $500 million, basically in a 5 to 6 week time period, which is extraordinary. She's getting generally positive media coverage. So she's basically positioned herself as the new person, the change agent, and kind of running against Trump as a retread, a guy who, is just relying on personal insults. And it used to be his carnival act was entertaining people and, propelled him to the presidency. People aren't as amused by that anymore. So, we still have 2 months to go. I think the September 10 debate will actually be really important for each of those candidates. They each have some issues that they need to overcome in that debate. And we'll see where we end up in November.
Darrell West, congratulations on your new book, Lies That Kill. Really insightful and an important step into looking at the complexities of the issues that we're facing on social media and the transformation of information. Always appreciate you taking the time. For everybody else, stay tuned. A lot going on. We'll have coverage throughout the day and into the night, and much, much more coming today. Enjoy this great weather. Welcome back to Brown students who are back on campus now. Thanks, everybody.